Imagine giving birth to a healthy baby. You take him home and he gets exposed to a deadly disease that he's too young to be vaccinated against. Frustrating, isn't it? The truth is that these diseases that were seen as practically eradicated are making an alarming comeback. The cause? People not vaccinating their kids. I know as long as I've been alive, I haven't ever seen most of these diseases, due to them being almost eradicated by vaccines. I've never had the measles, the mumps, or even the chicken pox. My parents lived through the era where these diseases were around. They were common, and they could potentially be life-threatening. For them, when vaccines were offered after I was born, saying yes was completely a no-brainer. Many of us in the younger generation who have never experienced these diseases confuse us not seeing them due to high vaccination rates with them not existing anymore. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and this has caused a major drop in the amount of children who are fully vaccinated or even vaccinated at all. Many diseases that used to be common are those of which we don't see, especially in middle to high economical societies such as the United States. According to Melinda Wharton, MD, there are now officially 16 diseases that are preventable by vaccine, 14 of which are given to children and 2 which are given to adolescents. In recent years, however, since speculation about the safety of vaccines has risen, the amount of children being vaccinated has continued to drop. In this speech, I plan to explain to you the negative effects that occur when children don't get vaccinated and talk about some solutions that we can implement to educate parents with the science and the truth about vaccines in hopes that we can convince them to vaccinate. Vaccines are considered by many to be medical miracles. They've taken away many detrimental diseases that have seriously impaired or killed many people in the past. But some of these diseases have started making alarming comebacks. In the last century, vaccines have been made available for many diseases, some of which in many societies haven't been seen in many years. Your instant thought goes to thinking that the disease doesn't exist anymore, right? Wrong. Actually, just because we haven't seen a disease in a while doesn't mean that it's gone. It just means that we've been protected against it through vaccination, and it hasn't been able to rear its ugly head. Unfortunately, many adults don't know this when it comes to time to get their own children vaccinated. They look at it as a choice, and many actually believe in the free rider argument, which states that as long as other kids get vaccinated, their kids will be protected by herd immunity. The problem with this is that if too many people have this thought, the amount of vaccinated people drops and the herd effect is unable to take place. Herd immunity is the term that describes when many people in a community are being vaccinated, which will protect those who are too young to be vaccinated or immunocompromised and can't be vaccinated. The disease is unable to spread. Lately, with the drop of vaccinated people, many diseases have reappeared and caused outbreaks throughout the world. One of the vaccines in particular that parents started worrying about the safety of after many spoke out was the MMR vaccine. This vaccine protects your child against the measles, the mumps, and rubella. One of the leaders of this anti-vaccination movement was Jenny McCarthy, who claimed that her child developed autism after getting the vaccine. After many other parents with autistic children banded together and started this movement, many parents have stopped vaccinating their kids for this. That since has caused many measles outbreaks, one of them being in Disneyland in 2014. Measles is a highly infectious viral disease that remains the leading cause of death in children worldwide. After patients cough or sneeze, the virus particles can survive as long as 2 hours on doorknobs, handrails, elevator buttons, and even in the air. Despite the fact that a vaccine has been available for decades, about 400 people died of the measles every single day in 2013. Before vaccination became widespread, the disease killed 2.6 million people per year. Kaplan, 2015. When parents started suspecting that the MMR vaccine caused autism, a very large, thorough investigation was conducted by many agencies unrelated to the pharmaceutical companies. All of them except one proved that the MMR vaccine and autism were unrelated. The one that did draw a conclusion between the two was conducted by Andrew Wakefield and some of his colleagues. This caused a huge spark in the anti-vax movement when the study was published in the '98 paper The Lancet. They claimed the vaccine could cause autism in susceptible children. In the years since, more than a dozen studies have convincingly proved that the vaccines don't cause autism. The studies that have disproved the claim have been so abundant that the Lancet retracted the article in early 2010. Most of the co-authors no longer vouch for the findings, and Wakefield was accused of falsifying data and lost his medical license. Daily 2011. Now that we've heard some real evidence and some data, let's talk about what we can do to make sure parents are being educated about this topic rather than being fed empty accusations that the internet has fueled. In this day and age, with social media and the internet being part of our daily lives, we have access to tons of information at our fingertips, but also tons of people's opinions that aren't always backed by scientific evidence. In the case of Jenny McCarthy, she claimed that her son developed autism after the MMR vaccine. But just because one action follows another doesn't always mean that they're correlated. The problem with her claims was that they were unsupported and she had no evidence to back her claim, though the evidence against her claim were stacks and stacks full. As a parent, you have to advocate for your child, but after many studies have disproven your theories, when is it time to stop spreading your biased opinion and start listening to the experts? The talk about vaccinations normally starts at the 2-month checkup for a newborn. With this visit being jam-packed full of questions and information, vaccines normally get the last few minutes of conversation where the doctor explains the recommended schedule. Many parents are fearful of vaccines due to all the outcry of the dangers, and many have questions that could help ease their minds. Doctors have lots of patience, and this would take a long time. I think, though, that this has led to a strong feeling of parents being uneasy about getting their children vaccinated. I think it's time to educate and put parents at ease by taking the time to explain and answer their questions. A recent study was conducted and found that internet-based intervention delivered during pregnancy and early childhood successfully improved the vaccine attitudes of parents who were already hesitant about them. The intervention also improved vaccine rates. Daily 2011. These findings prove that when parents are presented with evidence and they see that these claims are unproven, that they're logical and they see the benefits of the vaccines. Another thing that could be done to educate people about vaccines is to make new parents watch these diseases in action. Show them videos and pictures of these harmful diseases and show them that these are not something that you can just think, oh, that's fine, my child will just be okay, they can get the measles, because it's not okay, and they don't understand how severe these diseases can be. Now that we've talked about the problem and some solutions, let's talk about some of these diseases and how serious they can be. Many people used to talk about the chickenpox as a rite of passage of childhood. Many parents even used to take you around someone who was infected so that you would get the disease and develop your own antibodies. With many parents not having any science or medical background, they don't understand how serious the chickenpox can actually be. With the chickenpox being a disease that causes lesions all over your skin, it makes tons of points of entry for staphylococcal infections. Staphylococcus lives on your skin normally and is considered an opportunistic pathogen. It takes advantage when you allow it a point of entry. Staphylococcus can literally cause your body to go into septic shock. When your body goes into septic shock, your organs shut down one by one, and septic shock is almost impossible to recover from. Once the tissue and the organ dies, there is no fixing it. Another disease that has started showing up again that parents don't seem to be concerned about is the measles. Depending on fate to soften the blow from an infection is so much more dangerous than parents realize. 1 out of every 20 previously healthy children who gets the measles will develop pneumonia. 1 out of every 1,000 kids will suffer brain inflammation that can lead to convulsion and mental retardation. 2 of those 1,000 will die. Daily 2011. Now that you know a little more about the dangers of not vaccinating and how these claims about how dangerous vaccines are unsupported by evidence, I hope I've helped educate you and that I've made you want to do more research on the matter. In conclusion, I believe if we start educating people about vaccines, that we will see an increase in vaccination rates and a decrease in how many of these deadly diseases are still around. I hope if any of you were skeptical about vaccines or against them altogether, that I've given you some information to think about and research that may change your mind. A world without disease is something we can all hope for, but the only chance of it happening is if we get educated and start doing our part.